El país de la libertad se ha convertido en el país de las deportaciones, which means the country of liberty has turned into the country of deportations.
Detention Nation is a show about our nation's immigration policies. What it demonstrates is how detainees are incarcerated without due process. And that's one of the things that we want people to walk away with, understanding that we're talking about a population that has not been offered their human rights.
In the past 20 years, starting in 1982, around the time when I was born, the Houston Processing Center, it's sort of like the grandfather of all private detention centers. This is where the experiment began. And now it's ballooned to 365 private detention centers all across the country. And so it's really becoming part of our American identity now, this sort of locking immigrants up, housing them for as long as we can to make as much money off of them as we can, and then ultimately deporting them.
One of the things that we found very difficult is that one can't get inside a detention center. It's closed to the public. How do you kind of explain something that you really can't see? The only way that we could interact is through the letters that you see on the walls, and reading those letters and interviewing people that had been inside. And from all of that information, we were able to recreate the feelings, the anxieties, the tensions that the detainees faced while they were inside the detention centers.
We worked with families over a period of a year, and so we felt that by addressing these needs, by bringing in these voices and allowing them to tell their story, it was possible for us to be able to say their stories are valid and something needs to be changed, and also the community at large has the right to know what's happening behind this barbed wire.
One of the letters, the detainees wrote Conroe, Texas, and then he crossed it out, and then he said El Infierno, Texas. We were trying to recreate that sense of hell that they have, that even though it's like very institutional, emotionally, it's still an infierno. Detainees keep using that word over and over.
So what we wanted to do is just kind of like suggest all of those things inside of the exhibition so that when people came in, they began to understand, what kind of crisis that we're talking about in terms of people being dehumanized. And so in the show itself, you don't necessarily see, a documentary representation of those people that have been incarcerated within the detention centers. But what you feel is you feel their presence, and really that's what we were trying to go for is that tension and the dehumanization that they feel once they're incarcerated into these detention centers.
This is the first time that our art collective has presented in a museum space. Usually these are stories that end up being told in someone's home, to the media, on social media even. But to have it actually at a museum allows us to spread the message to an audience that we normally don't encounter. But it is also one aspect of where these stories need to be told.